You are listening to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. On this episode, we're discussing Funeral Procession, which is track 8 on Supporting Cast.
And there's also a full demo of Funeral Procession as track 8 on the Supporting Cast demos, which is on Bandcamp. So we have like these two simultaneous versions of this same song from the demo to the completed version, which I think is so cool because I was listening to the demo version a lot the last couple of days as well, and there are some subtle differences between the demo and the record version. So obviously, but that demo is amazing too. But for anybody out there listening who hasn't heard the demo version, you can find that at Propaganda's Bandcamp, and the differences are really cool. And if you think back to our This Is Your Life episode, where we use that demo to send out to listeners to do a sing-over kind of version, those demos are just like rife with some really cool material and some really raw recordings of Propaganda, like just playing in Chris's basement in the lead up to this absolutely amazing record. So I was loving listening to the differences between the blasting room version and Chris's version too in the demos.
Yeah, and with that, I think I found a part of a review from Punk News. So thinking about the demos, but also reading what people had to say in 2009 when this came out, is kind of put me back into when I first heard this record. And I want to read something really quickly from a review. It said, "Supporting Cast is a hugely significant release from a band that has proven yet again that they are still the most important band in punk rock. Musically and lyrically uncompromising, pioneering, whilst at the same time didactic. The energy that floods from the music, like lies from the mouth of a politician, illustrates that this is a band at the top of their game. The added creative stimulus of the Beeve, coupled with Hannah's dedication to the band full time since the closing of G7, represent what is a newly energized Propaganda. So let us hope it stays this way. For if it does, we can be sure to expect several more releases just as vital and as mind-blowing as this one."
And that's exactly what has happened. I mean, since this record, we've had Failed States and Victory Lap, both of which are extremely different than Supporting Cast in many, many ways, but also very unique standalone products in their own right that, you know, shows that the band continues to develop over time. So you know what I mean? This is just like, that's just such an awesome preview of what is yet to come from this band written all the way back in 2009.
Yeah, fortunately prophetic in this description.
Fortunately,
but,
yeah.
But I also think it's easy for me to forget what was going on in the context of when this record came out, partly because, you know, I was living overseas at the time, and it's just so far removed from like my daily thought here. The inner workings of the band that created obviously what so many listeners say is like the unmatchable Propaganda record.
I mean, and I'm in that camp. Like to me, this is like the record that like I every record that comes out, I absolutely love for many different reasons. But to me, this is the one that hit me at the absolute perfect time and place. I was also living overseas. I was living in London, and I got it in the mail as a CD from Hassle Records in the UK. And Night Letters came on, and I was like, oh, this is immediately the best record I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, Keith, what's really interesting is that I haven't talked to you in a while. We did our Refusing to Be a Man episode, and then I haven't talked to you since then. It's been, I feel like, weeks at this point since you and I have been on video together.
I think a month. I think it's been a month.
It's really wild. And I did an awesome bonus episode to natural disasters in the meantime with Dr. Andrew Klein, who came on to do a supplementary episode on the song Natural Disasters, which we did last year. Mm-hmm. But I always felt like we didn't do that song the justice it deserved for our 45-minute episode that we did. So I went back and did a
Agreed, yeah.
supplementary part 2. So I felt really good about that. But I'm curious how your summer is going. What's going on in Keithland?
Yeah, I've been in Pennsylvania staying with my wife's family for the last month or so since the last time we recorded.
Mhm.
And my sister-in-law got married, and I've been taking a class, like a teacher seminar, spending a lot of time with my son, watching old TV shows with my father-in-law. So a lot of downtime, a lot of reading for that class. So as much as I wanted to be able to record, and I brought my microphone and I have my gear with me, but I was just been so swamped with all the prep needed for the teacher seminar that I have just wasn't realistic in being able to sit down and also prepare notes and do all those things that would be needed for recording and keeping up with our schedule. So things have been going well, but I only have like 3 weeks of summer left before I go back to school. So that's a little overwhelming.
Well, and you've been posting a lot of really great stuff at your personal Twitter account, Goff Teaches, where you've been like posting a lot of stuff on what you've been learning in this teacher seminar. So
yeah,
it seems like it's been an intellectually enriching experience for you this summer, which is really great because it keeps the old brain ticking as we creep into middle age, which is, we're not dead yet, Keith. We got to keep learning. You know what I mean?
We all need that. What about you, Greg? What's going on in Gregland?
So I went on a trip. I went to Missouri to see some family and to go to my office because I work 800 miles away from where I live, which is an interesting life experience. And then I went to a family wedding as well in Cincinnati. And then I went up to Cleveland and I hung out with one of our podcast listeners. So hi, Mandy. Mandy and I hung out in Cleveland and had a really great day. We had a great lunch. And it was just really cool to meet somebody who likes the show. And I got to see a little bit of Cleveland. And then I've also been riding my bike a lot. So people have been following our Instagram stories. I've been posting a lot of my bike rides there. And after we record today, I'm planning on riding from Buffalo to the tip of Niagara Falls and back again. So I have a 50-miler planned for this afternoon, which I'm really excited about. But interestingly, as you may know, about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, Propaganda announced that they were doing 6 or 7 Canadian shows this October. And so I was like obsessively following the announcement of these shows. And I was fortunate to buy a ticket for the Park Theater Winnipeg show on October 9th this fall. And I am currently a ticketed person for a Propaganda show in Winnipeg with Choke and Mobina Galore, which I'm remaining extremely cautious about my chances of actually going. The Canadian government announced that the border is going to be opening for fully vaccinated Americans on August 9th. So I'm planning some border test runs in my car because I only live 10 minutes away from the border itself. But I'm not going to buy concert tickets or not going to buy plane tickets just yet. But several people that listen to the podcast who live in Toronto have reached out about me driving up to Toronto and flying to Winnipeg with them. Cool. There very well may be a Bangers Embrace style exodus to Winnipeg with a couple of Toronto listeners of our podcast with me. So I'm really, really excited about the prospect of that happening, but the Delta variant has got everything so up in the air that Chris on his Patreon is very doubtful that the shows will even happen at all. So I am playing this extremely cautiously, but for the moment, in theory, I will be seeing Propaganda this fall in their hometown, which will be a life experience if ever one exists. So that's kind of what I've been up to. You know what I mean?
Well, I got my fingers and my toes crossed for you, Greg. And
thanks, buddy.
Optimistic, but realistic, but I still got them crossed.
I know. Well, and all that said, here we are for Funeral Procession, and I'm stoked to talk about another tune from what I see as being legitimately my favorite record of all time in all of music. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at for this.
So let's switch to the guest. Greg, tell us about the guest for this episode.
So our guest for this episode is a Winnipeg musician. named Dylan James. Dylan is the drummer for the Winnipeg punk rock band Clipwing, and Dylan is our second member of Clipwing to come on the show as a guest. Everybody will remember Randy Frickus, who was our guest on the Failed Imagineer episode. Randy directed Failed Imagineer, the video. Randy filmed Chris's recent Patreon posting of that show at the Park Theater on Patreon. Randy filmed that and edited it. So Dylan plays in Clipwing with Randy. And in addition to being in Clipwing, Dylan is a super diehard Propaganda vinyl collector as well. And he also plays drums in a virtual band during the pandemic, and the band is called the Isolation Booth. And I've posted their videos on our Twitter, but they do covers. They have 2 covers of Propaganda up. They covered Call Before You Dig and Letters to a Young Anus, which you can find on YouTube. And I'll put those in the show notes because they're awesome. So Dylan and some buddies got together and they're like, we're going to film some covers. And they also did an Alexis on Fire cover with Mobina Galore doing the sort of dueling back and forth vocals that George and Dallas do on that Alexis on Fire song. So that's really a great thing that Dylan is doing. So I wanted to give you a sense of what Dylan's Isolation Booth project sounds like, because they're all Propaganda super nerds too. So here is a quick little snippet of Call Before You Dig from the Isolation Booth.
The city, I dug a ditch to lay up empty flesh away the prearranged bodies and shit. The white radicals devoured to protest the colonial past. Three-ply card and now stuck to their ass.
And so Dylan is the drummer on that, and you can see that he really is a fabulous drummer. He captures Jord's essence very well. And so without further delay, enjoy my conversation with Winnipeg drummer and Clipwing drummer, Dylan James.
Bring me down with your acerbic online wet. Call before you dig. The city dog, the ditch, a few feet short of sound.
Dylan James, welcome to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda.
Hey, Greg. Good to meet you, buddy. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Yeah, we're stoked, man. So it's really good to have you here, Dylan. And so I usually start off the conversations with guests by having them introduce themselves a little bit to the audience. So can you just tell everybody out there listening a little bit about who you are and what you do in the world?
So my name is Dylan James. I've been listening to propaganda since I was about 13 years old. I'm 30, almost 32 now. So it's been a long time since that I've been listening to these guys. For work, I work at the Royal Canadian Air Force Base here in Winnipeg at the 17 Wing, and I work with the health department here. So I deal with military members that have PTSD or nutrition and all that kind of stuff. Just like a full health kind of scope that I deal with these military members and community members in the military community. So I do that full time, and I'm also playing a band called Clipwing here in Winnipeg with a couple of buddies of mine, and yeah, I play drums in it. Been playing drums for almost like over 15 years, I think. So yeah, I love music. I play guitar, play bass when I was younger, and play a little piano here and there. I sing. So music's my passion. So that's what I love doing.
Well, wonderful. Well, I'm putting together a few pieces here. So Randy Frickus, who is in Clipwing with you, was our guest on Failed Imagineer. And in our Failed Imagineer episode, we also talked a lot about the trauma that Chris writes about with his grandfathers coming home from World War II, essentially as changed men who witnessed trauma and things that they never really spoke about or never really got over, which it sounds like you are, directly involved in that kind of work. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, I coordinate a bunch of courses on the base that military members and community members can take, and yeah, it deals with like mental issues or, like I said, nutrition, communication, anything like that, in that kind of scope where they can coordinate I can coordinate classes, and we bring people together to discuss and discuss with other military members that they might not know have kind of like a similar issue that they want to talk about, or just like something in their life they want to talk about. And so we can bring these people together and they can discuss these together as kind of a similar situation. You know what I mean? They can kind of come together communally and discuss it and find support.
Amazing. Well, that's so cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an additional little thread going through Randy's episode, where we also talked about PTSD in war veterans and things like that as well. And then here you are in the same band and you're involved in that line of work. So I'm just absolutely loving the coincidences here that are happening
cool.
right off the bat in our conversation. Cool. Well, Dylan, how did you get into music, performing, joining bands? Like, what's kind of like the lay of the land for your musical history?
Well, my dad played in a band for 25 years. He played in a band called Laughing Boy, and he toured the country for months on end. And when my dad was on tour, he was a singer. And back then, bands would play a bar for like a week, rather than just one night and just spread the whole country out. But when my dad was touring, he would play like Calgary for a week or like 4 days, and then they would move on to the next city and next city. So my dad would be gone for months and months and months because they would be at a certain venue for so long. And so they would be the band, they would have originals and they did covers as well. And they would do the 3 sets a night at these bars and just tour and have a great time. And so knowing my dad did that, just was kind of an inspiration to me. Hearing stories and knowing what he did got me into music. And the big changer for me was punk rock, which my brother introduced me to. So my dad was a big inspiration because he basically told me what it was all about and what he did. And he on my first tour, it was really cool because I don't think many parents would say this, but because of his experience and his history of the band I went on tour with for the first time, I told my dad about it. He was like, you have to go because tour is the best and you need to experience that. So he's like, please go and just play music and hang out, because it's like nothing else.
Oh.
So my dad was fully supportive of me going in a van with a bunch of dudes playing in strange places and all that stuff.
I love it. I love it. What was like the earliest music that you found? Like, were you always into like punk music, or did you come into metal? Like, how did you come at your musical tastes?
I remember when I was growing up, like listening to bands like the Tea Party, and I think like Matchbox 20. Like those are kind of, I remember like hearing bands like that when I was like 10, 11.
Mm-hmm.
What other bands? Like kind of like that rock kind of genre, I guess, pop rock or that soft rock, Hootie and the Blowfish, stuff like that. So that was my first introduction to like rock music and just music in general. My dad always listened to was a big country fan, so I listened to a lot of country in the house as a kid. And my dad was always a classic rock fan, so Doors, Jimi Hendrix, all those guys he was a big fan of. So that was in the house as well.
Nice. Are you a Winnipeg guy born and raised?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. So how did you get into playing itself? Like, what did you start off on drums? I know you're a drummer in Clipwing. Like, did you start there, or did you come at in from multi-instrumentals, or how did you get into that?
I started playing bass in the school band. So just playing, classical kind of stuff. And
Like a stand-up bass, like a double?
no, electric.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started playing bass in school band. And I think that's when I was junior high-ish. So after like getting into school band, I had friends then, and we were all kind of experiencing the same kind of music. And then once I got into music like Propaganda, No Effects, Lagwagon, all those kind of fat bands that were big then, that's when we started playing music. And so I started playing bass in my first band.
Nice.
When I was like 13.
What year was this when you found Propaganda for the first time?
So I was 13. So like, I don't know, what is that? Not 2002? No.
Okay, so Empire's era.
Yeah, might have been Empire's era. I'm trying to think.
Do you remember what the first stuff you heard?
Oh, the first stuff I heard was How to Clean Everything.
Oh, nice. Okay, so even though it was like later on in their career, like mid-career, you heard the first stuff first. Interesting.
Yeah, so my brother, this is a really funny story. Once my brother heard I was kind of listening to punk rock, he kind of showed me some of his old t-shirts, because my brother got into hip hop then. He kind of switched out of that, and he got into hip hop. So he was showing me a bunch. He had this like No Effects shirt remember that No Effects shirt that had like the stone letters and it had that I on it? And I think it was like a Pump Out the Valium shirt or something like that. I can't remember, but he had that shirt. He was showing me a bunch of stuff, and he's like, "Oh, have you heard of this band?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Okay." And he took me to HMV at a mall in our city called Kildonan Place. And I went to HMV. He went in with me, and he was like looking through these CDs. He's like, "Here." He's like, "Take this." I'm like, "What is this?" He's like, "You just have to buy it." I'm like, "Okay." So I went up to the counter, and the guy at the counter at HMV was like, I'm pretty sure he looked at my brother and not me, even though I was the one buying it. I mean, he looked at my brother, he's like, "Do you know what they sing about on this?" And my brother's like, yeah, it's fine. It's all good. He's like the last, like, you know what the last like few tracks are on this? My brother's like, "It's all good." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." I'm just like this short kid. I'm just like, "Yeah, I want to buy this. Like, here's like $20 or whatever, $15. And I remember my brother put it in the CD player in the car, and I was blown away because he just started singing the lyrics to Anti-Manifesto.
Yeah.
And me, I'm knowing that he's into hip hop. So this is blowing my mind.
Nice.
Right. And we just drove home, listening to How to Clean Everything, and him listening to lyrics. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, it's fast and it's just different sounding. And then, yeah, the rest is history kind of thing.
Did he inform you that they were from the very city that you were driving around in?
That I don't remember if he told me about it. I feel like he probably knew it, but I'm not sure. He might have told me that. I don't remember.
Nice. Well, because like something that I'm super interested in is how people in Winnipeg process the fact that Propaganda is like a hometown band. And
I know, they're a local band.
Yeah, they still live there, and like people like will like message me on Instagram in the summer. "Oh, hey, just saw Chris Hanna riding his bike down the street past me like 2 seconds ago," and I'm just like, "Hey, right on, man, that's great." Okay, so where did it go from there? So you got How to Clean Everything. It's like 2002. What do you remember next about your exploration through Propaganda?
I remember getting into high school, and I think I heard Let's Talk More Rock next, like just kind of going in order.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I do remember really well is finally hearing Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes. And I remember hearing Purina Hall of Fame specifically.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that opening clip of the cow and like the slaughterhouse. I'm guessing that's where the clip was from.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like sitting there. I was in the library. I don't know how I remember this, but I remember I was in the library with my headphones on and my Discman. And I was listening. I was like, it would like really made me sad. I was like, what is happening right now? Like, I had no idea, of course, right? And I'm hearing this. I'm like, oof, like this sounds like really bad. And like that guitar that comes in, like the whole band that just like comes in when that clips in with the heartbeat. Like it just kind of took me to another place, and I was like, holy crap. So like after that, hearing that, and then going back to Meat is Murder, the song from Less Talk, hearing that song, I'm like, stop consuming animals. Then it just starts like it's like this message they're trying to give you at the start of the song. Just made me dive more into propaganda. So I think going from How to Clean Everything and hearing Less Talk More Rock, but I really remember hearing Today's Empires the most, I think, because it made the most impact on me, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then going back, really listening to lyrics, and of course, being that young, a lot of those lyrics were just like over my head because it was very political and very in depth with the references they're using and what they're talking about. So it was really hard to grasp.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I found propaganda in like 97, 98 with How to Clean Everything, and I was super into it. But then I started getting a lot more into metal because I got a job at a record store in high school and I worked with people who were super into metal. So when Today's Empires came out, I was super into Slayer. Like South of Heaven was like my thing. And Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes came out, and those riffs just drug me back in. And I was like, okay, never mind. I'm actually still all in on this band. And so I remember just being drug into the fold completely, and just like being like, well, this is it. This is my favorite band. No questions asked now. And it was because of Today's Empires. And interestingly, we just had the 20th anniversary of Today's Empires a couple of days ago.
That's right.
Which
That's
is
right.
super fun. And I don't know if you
Yeah.
have I don't know if you have a copy of the red Today's Empires on the
I
red
don't.
vinyl. Oh, I'm on a
I know.
mission. I'm on a mission. And there's one for sale on Discogs right now for like $180, but it's not available to shipping in the US. So like it says unavailable.
Where's it from?
I think it's in Japan, but it's on Discogs. So maybe you should have a glance and see if you can snag one. But yeah, I just love that. And we got the news that they're doing the remaster at the Blasting Room from Jason Livermore. And
That's
there's gonna be a brand new Today's Empires probably like this summer or maybe early fall. And I am like overwhelmed with emotion just thinking about the fact that I get to hear that album again with new ears.
No kidding.
20 plus years after it blew my mind the first time,
Yeah, it's gonna be really cool to hear, like to see what the remaster is gonna sound like. Yeah, it's gonna be really cool.
They're excited about it. They talked about it on Chris's Patreon on their March of the Crabs episode, and the guys in the band are really pumped about what they were hearing. So I think that they're hearing it for the first time in a way that they have never heard it as well, which was sort of inspiring for me because the people in the band are getting excited about it. Makes me more excited as well too,
Yeah, I think the email I got, where the message from the Patreon said, because there's such a big backlog and backup with COVID and stuff, so it's going to be a while. But I'm like, hey man, like I'll be right on the online waiting to hit add to cart whenever it comes out.
Love it, I love it. All right, so you're finding propaganda, you're getting into it, and then also, Dylan, today I discovered that you have one hell of an Instagram page dedicated to records. And
yeah.
I'm a record person as well. Tell me a little bit about some of your propaganda or propaganda adjacent stuff in your vinyl collection.
So I've got so the thing is, I got into vinyl, like really got into vinyl like pretty recently.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't buying propaganda vinyl. I don't have. I have all their CDs. I have the Propaganda is the one band where I would go to the CD shop the day of. I don't care what I'm doing. I'm going there and buying it.
Yeah.
So I have all their CDs, but I have all their weird, rare 7-inches. I don't have any of their LPs yet.
Interesting.
But that's like my next goal. That's what I'm going to be collecting. But I have like all their really weird, like the 10-inch, the FYP split. I have like the How to Clean a Couple things. I've got the Propaganda No Use for a Name Record Store Day one.
Me too. I've got one of those too.
Yeah. So I've got those really weird ones, and I've got the Reclaim the Streets bootleg 7-inch. Yeah. So I have those, and now that I'm getting way deeper into vinyl and I really want to build my collection, I'm going to be looking for propaganda like LPs, and to try and find some of the more rare ones, maybe the colored vinyl ones, and see if I can start getting those.
Nice. Excellent. Well, that's so
Yeah.
fun. And next thing you should track down is the split 7-inch with Sacrifice, where they did the Corrosion of Conformity.
Oh
cover.
shoot, I have that one. That's one I forgot. I've got that one.
Nice. What
Yeah.
color, what do you know off the top of your head what cover color you have for the I Spy 10-inch split?
I think I have the brown one or the gray one. I think it's the gray one.
Nice. Cool. Because there's so many different random colors of those covers, and it absolutely cracks me up because, and then now you look at those on Discogs and they're like $50 plus for copies of that 10-inch. And I kind of wish they would just, repress it. I kind of wish that Recess would do another pressing of it because they would sell, they would sell them.
Yeah, and then part of me is like, I don't know, I have one, and if they don't repress, it's like, haha, I have one. Very selfish of me.
So have you seen Propaganda live in your life?
Oh yeah, lots of times. Yeah.
Okay, tell me about some memories of seeing them live. Tell me about these performances that you've seen that that you remember.
I remember seeing them in Portage la Prairie. With a band called the Naked Midgets.
Nice.
And another band called Resistance. And Resistance is from Winnipeg, and I believe Naked Midgets were from Portage la Prairie. And I saw them at this community center. It was around like the Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes era.
I saw a ticket stub for that show recently.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
I think I posted a picture of it on Twitter. I think it was like a bright red ticket stub.
I think that's right. So I remember going to that show. And I was like front row, and I remember when Propaganda came out, it was so Chris was wearing this green like hockey. He had a green hockey jersey on with matching like sweatpants,
nice,
or like track pants on, and he had a sock stuffed in his crotch. So when he came out, I was like front row, like, what the heck is going on right now? And like, I'm pretty sure they like went into like fuck the border or something crazy just to start the whole show off. And I remember when I was on the Propaganda website, it's not there anymore. I should have saved this photo somehow, but there's a photo of me in the front row with everyone else, and I had dreads then. And Chris is like just rocking out, and Todd's there, and the whole gang kind of thing. But there was me in the front row, like pressed against the barricade, and just sweat, and just it's such a great picture, but I don't think I can find it.
Oh my God, I wonder if anybody out there has it. There's like Facebook groups for like Winnipeg punk show pictures and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like I bet we could. I bet you could track it down. I bet it's out there. And
it's got to be somewhere.
It has to be. So if anybody out there has a picture of Dylan with dreads pressed up against the stage at that Portage show, definitely hit me up, and I will make sure that Dylan receives it. Because that's a ton of fun. All right, so that's the first time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's next? Take me through this journey.
Man, I remember seeing that at West End Cultural Center. I think it was around that Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes like time as well.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I've seen them a ton at the Park Theater here in Winnipeg. It's funny, like, when you see them a little later on, when you're, late 20s, maybe like 30s, you just kind of like sit back and just absorb everything of like what these guys do, which is really cool. Well, another cool, it might not be a show, but a little kind of a sidebar. Like my band used to jam in their jam building.
Nice.
So we'd be in the same building as Propaganda when they were practicing. So I would like hear them sometimes like going over songs and like playing the same song over and over again, and hearing them prep for shows.
Is it the building that they took the picture in for the back cover of Victory Lap?
I think that was at the Park Theater.
No, I mean like the black and white checked floor, like where Sue Lynn did the audition.
Oh, yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
So that was the Furby house.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What like is that place still around? Is that still a jam space, or is that because I know that one of their jam spaces sort of fell apart, and it was not going well. Like the building was becoming more dilapidated. The bands weren't really taking care of the space. And
I think there was a space on a street called South Osborne. I'm pretty sure they were jamming, and then that place I think got kiboshed, and they're not around anymore.
Okay.
But I know they were jamming at the Furby space for quite a while, and I would see them. One day, Jord was locked out of the space, and he was outside, and I was like, Jord, like, what's going on? He's like, man. He's like, do you jam here? I'm like, yeah, I jam here. He's like, fuck, I forgot my keys. I'm like, oh shit. So I like let him in. He's like, oh, thanks. And so I kind of walked to his jam room and back to mine, kind of thing. So those are the kind of things where you see them just around and they're just jamming like you are, right?
Nice. Was Comeback Kid in that building too? I know they've shared some similar practice spaces as well.
Yeah, they did. Yes. I think they shared the same room.
Nice.
Yeah.
Were you at the Propaganda show in 2019 at the Park Theater? It was like sort of like the last Propaganda show, like kind of like before the world ended as we know it. Like, were you at those shows?
Yes.
Nice. Chris just posted a version of Back to the Motor League on his Patreon this weekend. I believe it was a recording from that exact show at the Park Theater in Winnipeg, which I really hope that the first show they do back, maybe I hope they do a couple nights at the park in Winnipeg when shows come back, because I am totally going. I don't care what happens. I will be there. It has to happen at this point,
Oh, that'd be great. And it was cool because Randy from Clipwing and my other bandmate Marty, they were filming that show actually.
Yeah, nice. Them. I hope that is able to see the light of day someday.
I know they were kind of talking about it, and I'm not sure if Propaganda was too they weren't too stoked on the mix or something like that. So I'm not sure what they're going to do with it, but I mean, I hope they do something would be great.
That would be amazing. All right. So, Dylan, we are a show that talks about individual Propaganda songs, one song per episode. And whenever you and I got in touch, I asked you to pick a song from a list that I sent you, and you slaved over the list and you picked a song from, I'm not going to reveal it yet. Well, obviously everybody knows because it's the name of this episode, but it's on the Supporting Cast LP. And I want to know about what that specific record means to you within the discography of Propaganda.
Supporting Cast, it's my favorite Propaganda record. It's my favorite sounding one. It's got probably out of a record that has, of course you would probably say the same thing. I could probably speak for both of us that all the songs are so good on the records, but that album has the most of that's such a good song. Like it just kind of barrels through that whole record. And that's another record that, hearing, the songs about vegetarianism, which helped me, become vegetarian when I was 15, and hearing those songs, I love hearing those songs by them. It just kind of solidifies how I feel. I've never wavered from that, but it's cool to still hear them sing about those kind of topics, and it kind of sheds new light on that as well, and brings more information to myself, the whole Sandor Katz thing, and kind of, right. So that kind of brought me to New World too. There's a ton of songs that record just kind of hit me hard, Last Will and Testament. It was I remember listening to that song over and over. I'm just it's so heavy lyrically and musically, and just that intro is so great. And I think my favorite song is Tertium Non Datur.
Nice.
On that album. Yeah, it's just so ferocious and furious kind of thing. I know that's a Beef song from his old band, right? But they definitely made it their own. And it's that album's, it's the sound of that album from the blasting room is just, it's incredible.
Nice. I have very similar feelings to that, but I'm really glad that you mentioned the Sandor Katz song, because we went so hard on that episode preparing.
I know you did.
I almost made myself throw up while we were recording the episode, because I was reading all the head cheese stuff and the recipes into the recording for the episode. And I was I had to edit out these long extended pauses that aren't in the episode because I was gagging.
Oh no.
While I was reading, and Keith was on the other end of the recording. He's like, dude, are you okay? And I'm like, give me a second. And then I would just go back into reading the stuff. And so I had to edit out 5 or 6 times where I had to have these long extended pauses because of the recipes from the Sandor Katz book. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. I'm having, nausea flashbacks right now. Good times.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, it's great. I mean, it's it makes me nostalgic for recording the Humane Meat episode. So,
Yeah.
Dylan, why did you choose Funeral Procession as the song to discuss for your episode on the podcast?
I picked it. It's a pretty. I like how the song is kind of mapped out, and I like the topic of the song as well. It's really deep and it's pretty heavy for what they sing about. It's not very political, of course, but like it's kind of off that. But I feel like that album has a recurring theme of loss and death and like coping with those certain types of situations in life, and so it's kind of got that dark undertone through the whole album. And so that song is very kind of straightforward lyrically. It's nothing crazy, like it kind of gives you the message and you just take it as it is. And I just love the guitars and the drums in that song, and how the vocal melody and the vocal rhythm mimic what the guitars are doing. And it's very unique that way. And so all of Chris's vocals like sync up with his guitar rhythms, which is super cool. And so I think that's kind of a unique part of that album. And it's just obviously it's an overall great song, and it's pretty short, and it kind of draws out at the end with that when it slows down. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it's got that minute plus long outro.
Yeah, and then it fades in with the acoustic guitar with for Without Love.
It's so cool because that like the last, I mean, it's a super long song. If you look at the length of it, like on, iTunes or whatever in your catalog, but then when you realize like the last like minute 10 is just ambient outro leading up and building to the next song. I mean, it's really wild. And I remember hearing an interview with Chris where he was talking to Beeve after the release of Supporting Cast, when they realized that all of their experimentation had sort of paid off. And they were like, wow, we really can do whatever we want now. Like there's no limits to what we can do. And then the result of that limitlessness was Failed States, which goes off in bonkers directions so many times. I mean, so like this is really like a major turning point for this band, is this LP,
Yeah. There's a ton of. I feel like this album, like really. I mean, when we go back to like Today's Empires and how that was kind of a changing point as well. But I think just the maturity of this album and just how it's just balls to the wall is it's awesome. Like it's a great front to back album.
Nice. Well, I want to talk about the music a little bit more. You mentioned the sound and the recording of Blasting Room. I mean, this record sounds so ridiculously amazing. I was listening to Supporting Cast, the track, the other night, and I went on Instagram and I posted that minute 147 when Chris goes, yes, and then it goes into that riff on Supporting Cast. I was like, that's my favorite all-time moment in Propagandy's recorded catalog. Like that moment? That one moment where he goes,
awesome.
Where he goes, yes, into the riff. So I'm counting the riff that he goes into, but that yes into that riff on Supporting Cast is my favorite Propagandy moment ever.
Yeah. It's like that fast chug. It's like, what is happening right now?
I'm like pumped up right now. Like I want to like flip this microphone on this desk over and just go nuts all of a sudden after hearing it. It just hits me. And this whole entire record hits me in that manner, But something that I saw from you the other day is your drumming that you posted on Instagram when you did the playthrough for Cut Into the Earth. And this is such an unbelievably overlooked song. And you did a playthrough on the drums, and Last Note Clem, a guitar channel who does a ton of Propaganda, he did the guitar playthrough. And these are like the only playthrough videos that exist of Cut Into the Earth. It's your drum playthrough and Clem's guitar playthrough. And so I mean, I loved what you did because you really captured the mood of Cut Into the Earth when you were playing it. So I kind of want to talk a little bit more about Jord, because you're a drummer, and whenever I have drummers here, I need to know about drums. And so I want to know about Jord as a drummer broadly to you. You can talk about any songs, any records, but how does his playing across all these years matter to the way that you think about and approach your own drumming?
That's a good question. Seeing Jord play so many times live and listening to their records as much as I have, more than any other band probably, and hearing how his drumming has improved over the years. But even like thinking back to How to Clean Everything and just the way Jord uses the kit, like he uses everything, and like hearing those big tom rolls, even when he was back in How to Clean Everything days, that was always a big thing to me because listening to like skate punk and punk rock and all that kind of stuff, it's very I always thought it was very just like kick snare, couple rolls, some crashes, just like it's just fast, right? There wasn't any like language to like, it was just like straight up, just like fast, boom, keep it simple.
Right.
It's a more focused on other things. So hearing Jord play songs that have like he's doing full tom rolls and he's playing like cymbals with toms,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just that he's accenting so many things, and he brings a new sound to a part where, for example, if it's kind of slowing down, if it's not as intense of a part, he'll be playing cymbals and his like the four toms that he plays with, and he'll just like calm the whole thing down, and it gives these guys a totally different sound, and like bringing back like full circle, like that's why they're so goddamn good at what they do, because I think Jord is one of the most unique drummers, and no other drummers, at least that I've listened to, have that same playing ability and the same style as him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's on another planet when it comes to punk rock drumming and metal drumming, whatever it is. He uses his kit fully, and it's incredible.
Yeah, and I talked to JP Peters a little bit about Jord's playing whenever we interviewed him for the show. And he's like, Jord doesn't recycle what he does. So when you get a new song where Jord is performing on it, you're going to hear new things because of his, efforts to not recycle over and over what he does. And, no, like, I'm not like saying that to talk trash or whatever about some of my favorite drummers ever. Like, I love Eric from NoFX. I love Dave
Yeah.
from Lagwagon. And, but it like Jord never felt like those guys to me. Do you know what I mean? Like
Not at all.
If you listen to like Rory Koff on Making Friends by No Use for a Name, like you get it. You know what I mean? But Jord has never felt like those guys to me, even though he sort of fit within that little universe of drummers from those 90s fat bands. It's just a different feel. It just feels different.
It feels different, yeah.
And, tell me a little bit about we already did our Cut into the Earth episode, but I want to know what that felt like for you as you were grooving on Cut into the Earth a little bit. Tell me about what that experience was like for you trying to recreate that strangest of songs on that record, and with the time signature changes and the strange feel of that song, which is very haunting. But tell me a little bit about that experience for you actually playing that tune.
Yeah, it's a really different song for them, and it's like that intro's got a lot of tom work in it, and what like Jord does, and it was really cool to listen to it over and over again and try and precisely put where his cymbal hits were, like whether it be like the cymbals or like crashes or the china, the ride, like whatever it was, to try and precisely do what he was doing. And you can kind of get the feel of his like coordination of his hands and his feet, right? Just trying to keep that time. So it was really cool to try and play along with that and try and make it as perfect as possible. I mean, like Jord's the reason I have a china. Like I don't know many bands that really use the china, but I was like, oh, like seeing Jord live, I'm like, oh, that's what that symbol was when I was young. I'm like, oh, that's a cool symbol. And so I got it because he had one. So yeah, playing that song is really cool because it's a very unique song. Like you said, time signature wise, drum wise, vocal wise. So it's a kind of a really fun song to try and mimic. Yeah, every once in a while I do put on a propaganda record and I just like sit with my headphones on and play the whole record as if I can, and at least play along to it. So it's a ton of fun.
Nice. I bet you learn a few new chops whenever you go through a record like that as well. You figure out something that maybe you didn't put together the last time around. It's pretty cool. And like whenever I was watching your video, I was really struck by your face. And I know that might sound weird, but it's like you were looking off into the distance almost while you were doing it. And it was like almost like a transcendent groove, if you will, that you were in while you were playing. It's like you weren't overplaying. Like you almost like looked like you weren't even trying. Like it was just happening against your will while you were playing through that, which was really fascinating to watch because, a lot of people look like they're working super hard while they're playing drums, but you were sort of in a different place while you were playing that song on that video.
Yeah, I think it's because that intro specifically has a lot of dynamics. Like, he's not hammering on his drums. He's not like just blowing on like the China kind of thing. He's not just giving her. So it's a lot of dynamics. So you got to be, when I'm learning it, I'm trying to get the feel of it as well, not just playing the right parts of the drum kit, but also trying to play loud, quiet, and how he's hitting certain cymbals and really trying to perfect it. So when someone's playing the right things, you can learn what they're hitting at the time, but I think trying to perfect it with dynamics and attitude and the force of how you're hitting things, I think that's what that brings it together. And that's what I like to learn.
Nice. Okay, well, I know we're talking a lot about Cutting to the Earth. Let's go back to Funeral Procession. Tell me about what this song does for you as a drummer in particular.
Like I was saying earlier, like the drums and the guitars in the verses, they really seem to sync up to what the vocal melodies are. Like the funeral, right? That the verses are so sporadic and they're so like the chord changes are so fast, and I'm trying to think. Like I don't remember seeing them play that song that often.
I don't think I've ever seen them play this one, and I saw the Supporting Cast tour twice, and I don't really have a specific memory. They may have done it, but I remember they opened up with Tertium Non Datur. No, Supporting Cast. They opened up for Supporting Cast, but they played Tertium Non Datur at sound checks because it's such a hard song.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
So tell me about the lyrics in this song. I'm curious what you think like the lyrical heart of this song gets at as far as people go.
When I like read over the lyrics, like I have made sure I had the lyrics up, but it really seems like the lyrics I was reading over them as like for the meaning of the song, like what these words mean. It seems like I got from it was somebody either finding out someone that they love has died, passed away, and they're kind of dealing with the loss. And like, of course, like death is very confusing and it's very unknown. Like it's just kind of, it happens and you have to mourn however you do. And it's just like, it's such a confusing time. So it seems like, if this is about Chris or someone that he knows or a situation that he's been in, it seems like they're very confused with what is happening, and that they have like voices in their head. It seems like they're contemplating their own life. They have like the parts where it says like the voices love to remind me of my futility, sitting on my hands, hoping anyone else than me will do what should be done.
God, that's
right?
so good.
I know. So like it's kind of cool. Just to go for sidebar quickly, just how it goes into Without Love.
Mm-hmm.
I love how that transitions. I try to keep my composure and miss the insanity, resigned to the truth that I will not live to see the dawn of a better day that might wash away the sadness of this age.
Dude, I listened to this song like 5 times in a row right before we got on the phone.
Yeah, I listened to it a couple times.
That line, it's like, that's like the first line of a novel to me. Like I imagine opening up a book and says, I try to keep my composure amidst the insanity, resigned to the truth that I will not live to see the dawn of a better day. And I was like, that's like the first line of a novel, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's almost like Bulgakov Russian, like despair, like literature coming at me. And I'm like, I just that to me is like the lyrical heart of this song is somebody's life ending, and as you mentioned, death is very confusing. So you're still alive. You're dealing with the confusion of this person's passing, but then you're like, wow, someday I'm going to die too, and the world is still going to be the heinous mess that it is right now, and I'm going to die never having seen the goals that I wish the world would accomplished.
Yeah.
Oh, it's messes with you.
Yeah, like it's just telling you, like, is anything going to get better? Like, is that this is going to happen to me? And where I'm trying to find the other part in the lyrics, I try to keep my composure. We read that part. It's hard not to succumb as they call my name.
Oh,
Kind of thing. Like those voices in your head, you're trying to fight it, and because it all depends like how you mourn too. If this is a song about death and losing someone you love, people mourn differently. So this is the kind of situation where you've lost someone and you're dealing with it almost eternally, because it seemed like, the voices love to remind me of, right? Like he seems like there's stuff in his head that he's trying to get through by himself. And, hopefully, it won't turn to something really dark like his own life.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's dealing with it any way you can, but thinking about how the world just keeps going, and is this all it is? This is, you think about your mortality.
Yeah, well, and it's like succumbing, you know what I mean? The voices succumbing to the voices, and that could be suicide. You know what I mean?
That's right.
That is like the realest thing ever right there. It's like, well, this is all it's going to be, and I know that I'm going to die disappointed someday, and I know that the world's not going to get better. Why do I go on a single more day? Like, why should I not just succumb to these voices? And man, that is heavy stuff to process listening to this song. You know what I mean? If you really stop and think about it, it's like, oh boy, this funeral procession could be my funeral procession,
Right.
like this week. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And this has been such a dark year that you and I and everybody listening has been going through. And I think about how many people out there have done exactly that because of how broken everything feels. It's like, I can't do this anymore, and it really makes me sad, because those are statistics that I don't know if I have the strength to look up and find out.
Yeah. And I think, listening to the song and learning that you're I learned that this person in the song might be dealing with something by themselves, and thinking about this past year, people are more alone than ever.
Yep.
Because we can't go see our loved ones. We can't go take a trip to go see family that doesn't live here. Like, you're really by yourself. If you live by yourself, or you live with your brother or your wife or anything like that, like, you don't have the physical connection to deal with, to love one another, and to try and mourn together. You know what I mean? That physical kind of touch that we love when we're mourning somebody, or when we're sad or depressed, that we don't really have that at this time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Do you have any, so we don't have to end on the darkest note ever. Do you have a, like, the line, it ends with, you got to keep on trucking anyways. So
Yeah.
It ends with a note of hope. Do you have any thoughts and comments on that?
Yeah, I think it's a cool way to end it. I mean, it's a kind of like a silly saying to kind of end off a song with, but that's you've heard it before. Like, well, I just got to keep on trucking anyway, so let's just keep going. So I think it's maybe he's trying to put a little bit of humor at the end of this song.
Yeah.
To the listeners, because I think they have to keep in mind and consider that a lot of people are going to be listening to this song. You know what I mean? There are thousands of people. Like, I can't even think of the number that people listen to Propaganda, but people that listen to these songs and read the lyrics like I do, and I'm sure you do,
Yep.
really, really dive into what these guys are saying. So hearing that at the end of this song specifically is maybe just a little glimmer of hope to just like get through it. You to try and remember that you have a support system of people that love you and care about you. So it's just a moment in time that you have to deal with it, and you'll get through it. So you just got to keep on trucking past it.
Yeah. It's like, stick around.
Yeah.
It's like we're all in this shitstorm together.
Yeah.
So stick through it, stick it out.
Absolutely.
Stick with us. And and I'm sure you've had a lot of those types of conversations in your life, especially in your career and what you do for a living. It's always stick with us, stick around, and because you never know what's going to happen. Well, Dylan, what does as you get older, as you become a fan of this band for years upon years, and they've traveled with you beyond your teenage years into adulthood, and I'm sure they will go with you into middle age, just like me. What do they mean to you as far as like an influence on you across the course of your life?
Oh, well, I think the biggest one was learning about vegetarianism. These guys brought that into my life where I don't really thought of it being a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think them teaching me about that, like songs like Meat is Murder and the Flensing of Sandor Katz and Purina Hall of Fame and the song off Victory Lap, Lower Order.
Yeah, Lower Order. And nailing Descartes to the wall.
Yeah. So like songs like that, those are the songs that really hit me, that made me research things like their other songs, but that stuff specifically, because learning that was a thing, and I knew I was a compassionate person I don't like violence. I don't know how I would hate to see other creatures being treated like they do in some of these slaughterhouses, and that really influenced me to change my life. And it was because of this band. Any sort of thought of politics or globalization or what things are colonialism or any of those things that they talk about, that kind of stuff, they taught me about it. I didn't really think about it until they did. Maybe it was because it was from a band I loved. It was from a genre of music I loved that made me dive into it more. So I'm not a super political person, but learning about these things just inspires me to know there's people out there that are like fighting the good fight and trying to change their country, change their communities, anything like that. So they're a huge inspiration that there's just these guys, these skids from, just down the street from me kind of thing, that they're from this city that's cold in the wintertime, and it's not the biggest place. It's not the most spectacular, but they do what they can with raising funds or doing big fundraisers for communities and the indigenous people from our country. They're one of those political bands that put the money where their mouth is.
Mm-hmm.
And they do good work. And I think they're just a different band when it comes to politics. And I always think of like Anti-Flag and all these bands like, yeah, bad government sucks and do this and blah blah. It's like their propaganda is teaching us things of what's happened in the past and really giving us the nitty gritty of what is really happening.
It goes so far beyond sloganeering, Yeah,
like it's full on stories. Like I just listened to your Meika Morris Ukran Rasakan episode today, and like that whole song, it's like it's full of an amazing story and references and events that have happened in the past. And those are the kind of things that they want to bring to people's attention, because even though that happened years ago, it's those kind of things still happen, and they're still happening. They want people to get involved to try and make a change for all this crap that's happening.
Dylan, where can people find you if they want to get in touch, if they want to follow like your vinyl, Instagram, or anything like that? Where can people find you?
So my vinyl page is at That Vital Vinyl.
Nice.
On Instagram. You can follow my band Clipwing at Clipwing Music on Instagram. You can follow. I have a cool cover kind of project I'm doing with a couple of friends. We haven't been too busy lately, but if you want to check it out, we do a couple of propaganda covers. We're called The Isolation Booth.
Oh yeah, I watched your videos. Oh my God, that's you?
Yeah, I'm the drummer.
I'm such an idiot.
Yeah. So that's if you want to see us on Instagram, it's the Isolation Booth, The Isolation Booth on Instagram. We've done a couple of propaganda covers, and I drum with those guys. You
did one off Victory Lap too, didn't you? What were the two songs that you've done so far?
We did Call Before You Dig, and we did what's that other one called? I forget the other one's gonna bug me.
Oh my God, I have to go on YouTube right now and find out. This is ridiculous. The Isolation Booth. While I'm Google searching this for everybody. Oh, and you did the Alexis on Fire cover with Mobina Galore, which was
Yes.
amazing.
Thank you very much.
Oh my God, they are incredible. I love that band so much. So you did Letters to a Young Anus, and there you
That's
are
what it is.
in the
Yeah.
video right now. Oh my God. And Call Before You Dig. And
Yeah.
Call Before You Dig is arguably the song that I break into randomly singing most often.
Oh, cool.
Like I'll just be like in the kitchen cooking dinner and I'll go at Palmerston and Ruby Street, and it's just I just break into it. Like it's the song that just jumps out at me off that record as like the most singable, most memorable tune on the whole entire record. And I'm like, is Call Before You Dig my favorite song on Victory Lap? Like I think about this like way too often, but I am it is ridiculous that I've watched your Isolation Booth videos so many times and I didn't even know that you were in that video. This is cracking me up.
Yeah, so the when you're talking about the Call Before You Dig episode, I think it was episode 17.
Yeah.
You were like, oh, I watched this Isolation Booth video and I couldn't stop watching the drummer. And I was listening to the episode. I'm like, oh, that's me.
Oh my God. Dude.
Yeah.
Well, we've just come full circle here in the most freaky manner possible. But I'm looking at these like this Mobina Galore one has like 5,000 views, and the Call Before You Dig one has over 1,000, and the Letters to a Young Anus one has over 1,000. So it looks like people
pretty cool.
are finding it. So if you haven't seen those, for any listeners out there, I totally recommend Google searching the Isolation Booth or just searching it on YouTube, because the Call Before You Dig and Letters to Young Anus covers are awesome. And the Mobina Galore one, where they cover Alexis on Fire with the duet vocals, unbelievable. Loved it.
Yeah, they did a great job. So yeah, the whole thing was trying to get people from around the world. So like the guys who do the Propaganda covers, a couple dudes from Europe that Clipwing knew from touring out in Europe, and then Mobina Galore is from our hometown. So I was like, oh, let's just get those girls to rip on it.
Amazing. Well,
yeah.
What a hilarious turn of events we've had here in the last 5 minutes. So Dylan, let's leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming on Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda and talking about everything under the sun. I've had a really good time.
Man, Greg, thank you very much for having me. Having me, man. It was a really good time.
Never to return to the shape they wore. I wonder which is worse. I try to keep my composure. I'm missing insanity. Resigned to the truth that I will not live to see the dawn of a better day that might wash away.
All right, so that was my chat with Dylan James from Clipwing. You can check out Dylan on Instagram as well. He has a fantastic vinyl Instagram. His handle is That Vital Vinyl. And he also has a penchant for Buffalo hip hop like Conway the Machine and West Side Gun, which is pretty rad because Dylan really loves the city where I live. So Dylan and I have become buds. So Dylan, it is going to be, hopefully I'll be seeing you at the Propaganda Show on October 9th if all goes according to plan. But that was great. So Keith, you want to talk music?
Yeah, let's get into the guitar.
Okay, well, in general, I'm wondering if this might be a song that is underrated among fans on this record. You know what I mean? When I think of supporting cast in the past, I've always thought of like Night Letters, supporting cast, Without Love, Coach's Corner, Humane Meat. So like this one, Potemkin City Limits, like this middle part of the record, I'm wondering if this is like an underdog section of the record because the record has so many totally amazing songs. But if this is an underdog song in the middle of a record, like, holy smokes, what an unreal underdog tune, if it is in fact an underdog tune. Like, Potemkin City Limits into Funeral Procession into Without Love, like they're extremely well sequenced. They're deep, philosophical, like meaning of lifestyle. What does it all mean type of songs. So like I'm just like amazed by this Potemkin into Funeral Procession sequence. But yeah, this is like a pretty long song. But then I went and looked at the length of these songs, and it's the fourth longest song on the record. So it's a long one. It's over 4 minutes, but it's not even close to being the longest song. And I mean, this song is got this really interesting opening riff, but the riff is not included on the demo. So like the first like 15 seconds don't appear on the demo version.
Right.
So I'm wondering if that's like a totally brand new studio creation. And then I got to thinking about the intros on this record. And this is like Supporting Cast is a record of long intros. Night Letters, 45 seconds intro. The moody intro of Supporting Cast, another 45 seconds. The intro to Last Will and Testament is over 3 minutes. This intro is like 30 seconds. Like it's like the record is like full of these extended intros for this band. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there are very few songs where it compared to other parts of their career where it just immediately starts. And just from the first second, it picks up. Like there's a lot of build. There's a lot of I don't know, crescendo, if that is the right musical term.
It leads you into it, and it like heightens your expectations for it, and then it blasts you. So like this is just such a cool reoccurring approach and strategy within these songs to build up the listener, and then before you kind of like land that punch, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And Greg, I had that same observation that, geez, if this is, when I say like less memorable, I obviously don't mean that good. It's probably just like maybe less talked about song or less requested. You're not gonna maybe hear, people yell out Coach's Corner if you see them live.
Yeah.
But man, if this is a song that can fly under the radar a little bit, I agree. What does that say about the album as a whole? If this is one that you can go, man, I've kind of been overlooking this.
Absolutely. Because like whenever I think about this record, which is my favorite record, like, and I was like listening to this song over and over this past week, and I was like, this song is insanely deep. And then I messaged Sue Lynn and said, have you played this song while you've been in this band live? And Sue Lynn said no. Sue Lynn has never played this song live with the band. So I'm thinking about, like, whenever Sue Lynn told me they hadn't, and the Beeve also told me they had never played Cut Into the Earth live. Right. And then Sue Lynn tells me they'd never played Funeral Procession live. And I'm like, dang, that really just speaks to the quality of this record, to where this song doesn't make the cut live, because there are so many other songs from this record that people expect to hear live, that this one just has never made it into the set list, like in recent memory. And I can't find any live versions of this song on YouTube either. So I don't think I've ever seen this band play this song live in the few times I've seen them since this record came out, and I can't find any videos of them doing it either. So it's really a wild thing where a song of this quality doesn't get into the set list because of the just sheer presence of just totally amazing song after totally amazing song on this record. I mean, it's really crazy.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some of the specifics then.
Yeah.
I have a couple of thoughts about the guitars. I think there's that really awesome intro, like the mini intro with like a ringing and twisting opening riff that sounds pretty hopeful, I think, especially in the context of the lyrics of what's to come. I love that it has that proggy riff that mirrors Chris's vocals during the verses. Then there are just like tons of palm mutes. I mean, this is like the song of palm mutes. That takes that proggier feel and adds just a heavier, thrashier tone to the track. There are a lot of really, really neat fills and transitions on the guitar, like after Chris sings Lose Their Elasticity.
Yes.
The wee, new, new.
Yeah.
I really like how the second verse is played really differently from the first time Chris is singing. it just has like these resonating notes. They seem to be higher up on the neck. It's not as full. It kind of allows like these single notes to really echo and to ring. Or right after Desperately Clinging. I think that is like the first time in the song that it really feels like it's punk.
Yeah.
But then it almost immediately is overtaken by like these really sharp, gnarly chords that sound like they were plucked more from a Voivod record than say something on Fat Records. So there's a lot going on. It's heavy, it's fast, it has really great melodies. It switches up, but it's not so complex that it's like out of your grasp while listening to it. And I think that there's just like the lyrics or just like other parts of the song as a whole, there are some things here with the guitar that I've overlooked.
Yeah, and this song is wild to watch too. There's not a lot of breathing room during all of the song lead until the Sitting on My Hands part. There's not really a lot of breathing space. If you go and watch the Norwegian Oslo YouTube guitar playthrough video, he does a side-by-side, picture-in-picture version of himself playing both guitar parts. So you can watch Chris's part and Beeve's part played by the same person over each other. And it is a busy, busy song. This is not simple stuff whatsoever. So that playthrough, and he actually in that has replied to several comments, the Norwegian Oslo, talking about the hardest parts of the song. So if you want to go and look at some technical commentary with regards to this guitar playthrough, go watch the Norwegian Oslo YouTube channel playthrough, and then you can read some of his replies underneath it, because he's very communicative about the actual performance aspect of it, which is really cool. But you mentioned those wild palm muting parts. It reminds me so much of, like, it's like almost like a complementary approach to parts of Comply Resist, which has those extremely distinct and like right in your face, massively fast palm muting. So it kind of reminds me of that. But there's like this gorgeous melodic part from about 2 minutes and 2 seconds to 2:20 of Beeve and Chris just going and it gets really kind of like jangly at a couple of points, which is really fun. But it leads into the voices part. So Chris and Beeve leading up to that voices part of the song on guitar, they are so in sync and they sound so great together, and it just goes to show you the power of these two players together. And like, it just speaks to the absolute beauty of Chris and Beeve's years of collaboration and how important those years are to the band. But you mentioned that minimal guitar approach underneath Sitting on My Hands, hoping anyone else than me will do what should be done. It forces the listener to hear those lyrics.
Right.
When Chris backs off on the guitar and it's just kind of ringing and he's singing over that, it's like, hear this line, people. Pay attention to this message. Hear what I am saying. And I love when bands back off on really busy stuff so that an important lesson can come through. And Chris is saying, oh God, I'm hoping that someone else will do all the hard work that needs to be done because I can't bear it. And he just like, it's like an agonizing, painful, like an internal, like soul howl almost, like I am so close to giving up. And he just like forces the people to hear it because he just stops ripping on the guitar,
Yeah.
Such a distinct choice. Did you have any other thoughts on the guitars at all?
I think that kind of sums up what I have, what I took away from listening. What about bass and drums, Greg? What did you notice?
Well, so I don't have a ton to say about the bass on this one because it really just keeps it all together in the rhythm section. But an interesting distinction that is a neat little detail about this song for bass is that the demo version of this song on Bandcamp has a bass outro. there's no acoustic outro on the demo version. It fades all the instruments out except for the bass. So the whole outro on the demo version is just Todd plucking single notes until it fades into Without Love. So the bridge between Funeral Procession and Without Love in the demo version is just Todd plucking single notes until that Without Love riff comes in. So the outro on the demo version is just Todd, just bass.
Right.
So I think that's kind of a neat little standalone detail for the demo version compared to the record version for bass. But as far as drums go, this drum song is at first glance just like a fast punk rock style double time drum beat. 4/4, boop bop boop bop boop bop boop bop, like that kind of thing that everybody knows if you've listened to No Effects and Fat Records and all that stuff for years. But it's not totally just a straightforward beat. Like Jord goes from like a straightforward beat, and then instead of like a snare hit under certain vocal lines, like pass by here today, Jord doesn't keep the snare beat going on those. He goes from the fast double time, like punk rock, like skate punk drum beat, and then just hits crashes and kick drum instead. So instead of just a normal, like straight beat under pass by here today, it's boom, boom. Like, you know what I mean? So it's not that snare beat. So it's so much more interesting than just that standardized fast beat. That would be like a far more predictable approach to this style of song. And it differs so much from the more straightforward part of the song. So if you compare the pass by here today part to, but I feel like I knew his pain, like Jord is doing, like, it's like the same tempo and it could be the same drums, but Jord goes like a far more straightforward under, like, I feel like I knew his pain.
Yeah.
And it goes back to those conversations that I had with JP Peters and Jason Livermore in their discussions about why Jord is so interesting to work with. And like, so if you want to hear a little more technical perspective on Jord's specific special style of writing for his parts, go listen to those chats I had with Jason Livermore and JP Peters, because those engineers' perspective on recording Jord is so cool. But it's like these little flares and these little unique things that Jord has. Like, another example, guy, go listen to the drums underneath It's Hard Not to Succumb As They part, because like Jord is just so innovative and he's such an underdog and he just puts in the work on each and every song. Like, this is like a punk song, it's a straightforward punk song, but like Jord makes it so much more than what it seems on the surface. But you really have to pay attention and want to hear what he's doing and why this song is so much more special than so many other songs out there. Like, the man is so customized on every song, and he's basically singing that It's Hard Not to Succumb As They part through his rack toms. Like, he's so complimentary with Chris's vocals on that fill, and it's so customized that you can't really do exactly what he's doing on any other song because it has to line up with those vocals. And so if Chris doesn't sing a vocal the same on two different songs, Jord doesn't do the same fill. I mean, it's just such an ever-present undercurrent of this band and of Jord's playing that makes him so unique compared to so many drummers, which is what I think all the way back to Ben Murray on episode 6 when he's talking about duplicate keys and like Jord's unique approach. He's just different. Like, I love how the first time through as well, on like the soaring vocal parts where Chris goes super high, Jord follows the vocal delivery with a fill, but then Chris goes high again and Jord keeps it fast. You know what I mean? So he doesn't do fills to correspond with those soaring high vocals both times in a row. He does a fill the first time through and then the straight beat the second time through. So it's really just fabulous stuff.
Unexpected. And the word that of everything that you just said, Greg, that stands out is customized. Right? Customized to each other part of the band, every other instrument, the tempos, the fills, like all of those things being very specific and unique. Yeah, that's a great description.
Yeah. Do you have any drum thoughts on this one or bass thoughts?
I think that nailed it, buddy.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Keith. So I have some thoughts on the vocal performance as well.
Yeah, cool.
Like the actual exertion of singing this song. This is an extremely strong vocal melody. I think that I overlooked the strength of this vocal melody for literally the past 13 years. You know what I mean? It's unbelievably catchy. If you sing it to yourself as like an a cappella song in your car and slow down the tempo, you will see how memorable and engaging this melody actually is. This song feels like it could be on Potemkin City Limits as well to me.
Oh, yeah.
It is vocally, stylistically similar to the songs on Potemkin City Limits. I wouldn't be surprised if a version of this song existed during the making of Potemkin and it just didn't get across the finish line. Because Chris reprises a bit of the Potemkin City Limits soaring vocal style on this particular song, more so than at basically any other point on Supporting Cast. So I'm wondering if that is also a reason the band doesn't play this one live.
I just had that same thought. Yeah.
You know,
trying to imagine Chris sing the Call My Name part now. I mean, they would have to play it in a lower key and switch it up so much, but I'd still love to hear it, but it would be different and probably still hard.
Yeah, you know, and I was wondering, like, I have these like ideas all the time, and I'm not trying to tell anybody how to run their band or anything, but how interesting would it be if like Chris and Sue Lynn like duetted this one, where Chris does all the low parts and then those call my name, and then Sue Lynn comes in and did that part. You know what I mean? Like, how interesting would that be if they rearranged it so that it was super comfortable for Chris, but they could also bring back a song into the set list that they had not done maybe ever, you know? Like, think about Chris and Sue Lynn doing Fixed Frequencies and Fadala's Hearse. You know what I mean?
The call and response vocals.
Yeah. So like when Chris sings things like never to return to the shape they were, like I'm wondering if this is probably like sort of an off limits vocal for Chris in a live setting. And it's so awesome and it sounds so hard. But you know what? Then I listened to the demo version and he nailed them. Like it's nailed on he nails it on the demo too. So 2009 is not 2021, obviously.
Of course.
But, you know, Chris talks so much on Patreon about the changing of the vocal instrument to vocalists over the years as they age. And it's been interesting to hear him talk about singing a lot on his podcast during the pandemic. So I wonder how Chris feels about this one. But the vocal delivery on Supporting Cast is so interesting because of the availability of all these demos online. And listening to the demo, Chris also skips a line in the demo. And so, listening to the challenging part at the end of the song where he connects the lines, sitting on my hands, hoping anyone else than me will do what should be done, and then going into it's hard not to succumb as they call my name. The demo has a sort of a clunky transition between those ending lines within the song. And it's so interesting because it doesn't sound right on the demo compared to the final blasting room version, but the difference is really negligible. So it just goes to show you the fine tuning that the band goes through from the demo to the final version, and how things can change in the moment in the studio.
Right.
When you get other sets of ears on it, like Bill Stevenson or Jason Livermore, how there can be like this tiny little tweak that makes all the difference in the world. So go back and listen to those demos because it's so interesting. Do you have any specific thoughts about the acoustic minute plus long outro on this particular song?
It's interesting because when I was preparing for this song, I've always almost just associated that with Without Love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I think even on the CD, if it's like where it shows like the negative time, if it bleeds into it, so it doesn't really. I don't think it's on the time at the end of Funeral Procession. It's like the negative intro. So yeah, I think that's a great bridge between the two. And as you said, also kind of like a response, like the pairing and the themes of the two tracks are so closely connected that before this, I didn't really make a connection to. But I've always associated it way more with Without Love than Funeral Procession.
I'm curious about the development of the acoustic transition as well and how it came to be, because it isn't on the demo. Like I mentioned, the outro on the demo is just Todd plucking the bass. And I can picture Bill Stevenson in the studio being like, Without Love is the best song I've ever heard. And then trying to find a way to build up the anticipation of that song with the acoustic interlude. And I can just like picture that being like a Bill Stevenson idea, realizing that Without Love is like his like favorite thing ever. And I can just picture Bill saying, we got to make a better intro to the best song of all time. So I'm interested about that. But what's so fascinating is that Funeral Procession and Without Love are both so much about death and dying. And it's really interesting to see those two songs paired together on this particular record, where Chris sees a general big picture example in Funeral Procession of death, and then he witnesses that within himself, and then in the next song, Without Love, he's talking about losing his own loved ones. So he sees a death of a stranger. He sees those things within himself. And then in the next song, he talks about death of those that are close to him. So it's a really interesting pairing of this going into Without Love. And I mean, it's so well paired. It's unbelievable. But this is an unexpectedly amount of awesome that is accomplished in this song. The intro, the busy drums, the frantic riffs, the vocal melody, the creative outro. And then in that outro, there's also that weird sound that's happening. And the Sheet Happens book says that it's Chris using the tuning peg of the 6th string to pinch the note up and down for the outro. So those are my thoughts on the music on this one. Anything else you got for this one?
I'm ready to dive into the lyrics, Greg.
Well, before we get into the lyrics, Jenn Fiorentino and I have been in touch recently, and Jenn Fiorentino said that her Funeral Procession cover is totally cool if we put it in the episode, and we love having Jenn Fiorentino involved in the Unscripted Moments podcast about propaganda. So we're going to put Jenn Fiorentino's Funeral Procession cover right here, and then we'll talk about the lyrics. But if you are interested in hearing Jen's thoughts about propaganda, go back and listen to our last Will and Testament episode, where Jenn also provided a cover and an interview. So here's Jenn Fiorentino with Funeral Procession, and we'll be right back to talk about the lyrics.
hoping anyone else than me will do what should be done. It's hard not to succumb as they show my name. Gotta keep on trucking anyways.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Jenn Fiorentino, for hanging with us and contributing to the show. Once again, if you want to hear Jenn talk about propaganda, be sure to listen to the Last Will and Testament episode. I think that was number 16. We did it last year, but
I don't know.
it's back there.
No
It's
idea.
Last Will and Testament. But a YouTube user replied under Jenn's video for Funeral Procession, quote, "Whenever I want to feel goosebumps, I come here." So we
Yeah.
love Jenn's work here and support everything she does. So go check out Jenn's work. So Keith, let's get into the lyrics, man. This is a heavy hitter. The songs about contemplating death are a consistent theme on this record. I remember last year when we did Last Will and Testament, I was utterly exhausted by talking about the loss of my grandfather and grandmother, and witnessing their deaths. But Funeral Procession, Without Love, Last Will and Testament, to me almost feel like a trilogy within this record. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So let's look at the lyrics. It starts with the funeral procession passed by here today, confusion and questions left strewn in its wake, but I feel like I knew his pain. And it strikes me how universal the response is to death. And you've described this before. I think it was on the last Will and Testament episode, Greg, that death is one of the few things that humans have in common with each other and all living organisms, yet somehow we're still shocked or blindsided when someone dies. And in the process of grieving and processing, the loss stirs up feelings and emotions that were maybe just lurking below the surface of our consciousness, and our own mortality, life regrets, personal struggle and pain, past losses that just compile, tragedy and suffering that compounds. And I had never really made the connection, possibly with suicide before. And the words confusion and questions ring true in the wake of a person taking their own life. If a person asks, did I miss the signs that a person was struggling? Or did I overlook cries for help? And I think it's really important to keep in mind empathy. Chris isn't singing, how could they do this? Or I just don't understand why anyone would do that. But rather saying, oh, I get it. And I understand the pain and the sense of futility that daily life and existence brings.
Yeah, and so I have a few big picture thoughts on this opening line too. So I think about any person dying, right? Anyone.
Right.
Whether they're an amazing person or a horrendous person. So unless a person is uniquely despised or uniquely alone on this planet, a death will leave pain of some kind for those who are left behind, right? And having said that, after I had that thought, I've been thinking endlessly about people who die with no one and nothing. Do you know what I mean? And how horrible that is to be completely alone on the planet and to pass away and have nobody's lives affected by that. That is a horrendous thought to me. But even when someone is uniquely despised, picture a universally hated person, right? Their death will only likely make people think of how maybe that person got off easy or something, or escaped from some sort of accountability, which doesn't really often lead to healing of anything. So a uniquely horrendous person can die, but the wreckage of their life remains behind like an ocean that various types of pain congeal within, that roll from generation to generation. So we have very alone people dying and very horrible people dying, and how neither one of those are without pain. But then that line that you mentioned, confusion and questions left strewn in its wake, it leads me to draw some conclusions about who has died in this song. I'm who is this person who has left this confusion and questions? I envision this as a person who died suddenly, without warning,
right,
at a young age, possibly at their own hand. And I'm pretty convinced this is a song about suicide when Chris sings, but I feel like I knew his pain. The empathy of Chris in this line, empathizing with this deceased nameless figure, a man in this case, because Chris does gender the character in the line, shows so much darkness about the seeming endlessness of human suffering and the tempting thought of, is this all there is, right? And the people experiencing the confusion and questions, if this is a suicide, in fact, I was doing a little bit of research on this and I found out that the term is loss survivor. So loss survivors are the close family and friends left behind after a suicide. If a person dies, usually there are between 6 and 32 people who are direct loss survivors for each death, according to the CDC, meaning that in 2017 alone, there were as many as 1.5 million people who unwillingly became members of the loss survivors group post-suicide. And if you factor in social groups like school communities, church communities, religious communities, etc., there are about an additional 425 people who are impacted at least tangentially by a single suicide. So the confusion and questions left strewn in the wake, we're talking about a vast amount of people here, right, that are impacted by this. And being a person who experiences the confusion and questions is really, really tough too. And data indicates that after a loved one's suicide, people who are left behind face an increased risk of suicide themselves. So I found a 2015 report from the Action Alliance for Suicide Prevention, and it said that losing any first-degree relative to suicide increased a mourner's chance of suicide threefold. Young people appear to be particularly vulnerable after a suicide of a peer, which can lead to a phenomenon sometimes referred to as suicide clusters or suicide contagion. So that's something that can impact a school community tremendously. Like, men who have a spouse who die by suicide have a 46-fold increase in their chances of dying by suicide themselves. So if a man is married to a woman or another man and that spouse commits suicide, that's a 46-fold increase that other man will commit suicide. And then for women, that factor is 16-fold increase. So if you're a loss survivor in this way, like the American Psychological Association has a huge list of suggestions, notably that after a suicide, it's important for survivors to accept emotions, not worry about what you should feel or do. Like, there's no standard timeline for grieving or healing and no single right way to cope.
Yeah.
Caring for yourself, sleeping, eating healthy foods, exercise, draw on support systems, talk to people. Like, there's like a stigma often around talking about suicide, but many loss survivors suffer in silence, and joining a group or talking to a professional is super important. But, you know, if anybody out there knows someone who is a loss survivor, the American Association of Suicidology and the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline said that people can help survivors by listening without judgment, using the lost loved one's name to show that person isn't forgotten, accepting the shock, abandonment that can, manifest in a lost survivor, avoid phrases such as "I know how you feel" unless you are also a lost survivor, avoid telling people what they should think and do and feel, and be sensitive during holidays and anniversaries. But there's a line like this, man. I've really been tossing this one over a lot the last few days, and it makes me think about like a lot of notable, famous, well-known people who look like they have it all, right? Who commit suicide. Chris Cornell, Anthony Bourdain, creative people who offer joy to the world, to the people of the world, people who try to do good things for the world. I think about Bourdain a lot. Like, I remember exactly where I was when I heard he died. I was in Williamson, West Virginia, in a cottage on the side of a mountain because my wife was running a marathon that weekend in that town, and I got a notification banner on my phone saying that Anthony Bourdain had committed suicide. And it just goes to demonstrate like the public-facing persona and masks that people wear that are all too often hiding reservoirs of suffering, like that culminate in a single instant that can't be taken back. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, there's a lot I was thinking back on and processing that I hadn't considered thinking about or listening to the song before. The loss of former students who have died by suicide, and what I am thankful for, and Greg, the information that you shared, I think was helpful and informative and productive, and I think an important partner to this conversation about the lyrics themselves. But that these conversations, the stigma has seemed to have dissipated some, and the unwillingness to confront some of these things, either in our personal relationships, in our friendships or family, or in schools, right? I could see much more meaningful work and much more meaningful effort being put forward to help individuals process their experiences, whether it's something that they're struggling with on their own or as a result of something like a suicide. So it's a lot to think about, and yeah. I think we're doing better. I still think there's always progress, but I could say from my own personal experience that I do see definitely progress regarding this.
Well, and interestingly, connected to that, that got me thinking about suicide rates in our particular country, the U.S. Anybody can find these statistics for their own country if they're not in the U.S. But since you and I both live in the U.S., I don't try to be U.S. centric on this show. I realize that that's kind of a downfall of having two hosts for this podcast who live within the U.S. is that we tend to talk about this country more than others because it's what we know. But I was pretty shocked that American suicides fell by 5% between 2019 and 2020. So 47,500 people died by suicide in the U.S. in 2019, which is one every 11 minutes. And in 2020, while hundreds of thousands of Americans died of COVID, about 44,800 Americans died of suicide. So it did go down. But the CDC has a blurb about the impact of suicide, which it says that suicide and suicide attempts cause emotional, physical, and emotional impacts. And like people who attempt suicide and survive may experience serious injuries and they have long-term impact on their health. There's also depression and other health concerns. But, I also found that more than 90% of people who attempt suicide don't go on to die by it. So it's kind of it's just so heavy of a topic to dig into. But it's really, really wild about this. But for you and me, like I love the fact that we have this space here, Keith, because I feel like this is a place where you and I can be vulnerable publicly, but I also feel like the people who listen to this show won't judge us. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So like the line, but I feel like I knew his pain, to me is Chris empathizing deeply with someone who has committed suicide, and he acknowledges that space exists within himself. That instantaneous turning point exists for Chris in himself. And if I'm honest with myself, it exists within me too. And I feel it every week during this period of my life where my long-term relationship is on the rocks and I feel jolted badly within my day-to-day reality, which brings me to the next line. A mechanical failure, while enduring the norm, some of us fracture, others simply deform and lose their elasticity, never to return to the shape they were. I wonder which is worse. So right now, my life in general is not great. I'm not like gonna sit on the show and like just divulge all my garbage, but it's not great. But I'm clinging to these aspects of my identity that are within me, that are mine, that nobody can take from me. But I have a lot of hurt and a lot of pain at the moment. I have experienced a lot of hurt over a long period of time, as people all experience in their own ways. I've had things I feel that have been taken from me that I'm going to attempt to reclaim. Just because we love people in certain ways doesn't mean that all people's versions of love match up, and that causes hard times, whether it's with your parents or your siblings or your spouses or whatever. People have non-negotiables within relationships that oftentimes lead to breaking points within interpersonal relationships. And, you come into a relationship, a version of yourself that carries all of your past and present experiences with you. Then things happen during a life while living normal existence that cause what Chris calls a mechanical failure. So 2 very specific mechanical failures occurred for me that caused my fractures, right? And this is where I have to remain vague on the details, obviously, but I did deform. I failed repeatedly, and I failed badly. And I did my best to solve a few unsolvable problems. I didn't really get the hoped for return, and I fell apart. It kind of broke me. And I spent over a year in a depression that still roils me now and then. And those moments of like, why me? And then I have to remind myself, why not me? Like these moments of fracture can be so disorienting and confusing that we become unable to perform the most mundane of the norms, such as doing dishes, sweeping, having a conversation, expressing my deepest emotions and concerns, vulnerabilities, and being stuck in the middle of a conflict with which I have no ability to resolve. So a limitation about me is that I'm an ENFJ personality type. So I'm a protagonist personality type, which means that I'm good at exciting people, trying to please people, unite people, but I'm also really super duper conflict averse. So in the past several years, I was like caught in the middle of a conflict I had no ability to resolve, but I kept trying to resolve it and it broke me in half. And I became like a depressed, withdrawn, sullen, distracted person. I started 2 podcasts and retreated into a shell where I would put my full emotional, self into the shows. And I would just do podcast work because I needed something positive to cling to. And that caused me to retreat farther into a shell when I wasn't online recording podcasts. So there's a reason I'm so obsessive about this podcast. You know what I mean?
No, Greg, I thank you for sharing the struggles and the connections to the song, because it goes to show that it isn't just a song, right? But these are conversations and experiences that all people deal with in a variety of ways, and we can find our own connection to. So, I've been rooting for you behind the curtain, and I know that things haven't been easy. And I know that I'm thankful for your friendship, and I'm thankful for your work for this. And if I can help in the process and at least just be the buddy along the way to reform, I'm here,
Yeah.
of course. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the line brings up an interesting dilemma: the fracture or the deformity.
yeah.
And I felt like pondering the difference a little bit, because both can happen simultaneously. One leads into the other, or they could appear totally separately. But there can be a totally shattering event, right? An accident out of nowhere, a sudden death, a tragedy. Life can be normal one moment and not normal the next. So that is what I see as a fracture that Chris is talking about. And the deformity is a slower process. It's a descent, if you will, into addictions, into compulsions, into distractions, into depressions. So one is the fracture is sudden and jarring, and the deformity is like the air leaking out of a balloon or a tire. It's like the wasting away that Todd sings about in Negretto, where you watch a real-time human car crash, basically. So I can't really decide which one is worse either, which is what Chris is pondering. And I don't know if Chris knows. So, like, do you go along living a happy life and then have something horrible and sudden happen, knowing that things will never be the same? Or is it worse to slowly fall apart over time, and there's the hope that the recovery will be possible? So as someone who had things slowly apart over time, for me, I feel like I'm almost waking from like a zombie-like state after some years in a trance, in a way. Like I picture the me of my mid-20s traveling, living around the world, adventuring, and then the me of my mid to late 30s drinking White Claw, sitting in my room working on a podcast thinking, oh, this again? Like when I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, dude, get yourself in gear. You can do this. So having personally experienced the deformity and not the fracture initially, I'm now terrified of having the fracture come on the heels of the deformity. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes a deformity can lead to a fracturing, such as like relationships ending or like friendships ending or whatever. So, God, this is hard.
No, I agree, Greg. I think the use of that term is very unique and powerful. And when I hear mechanical failure, what comes to mind is like a subway or plane delay, equipment breakdown. And if people are the mechanical failures, well, they're expected to be like machinery or infrastructure that we expect to perform, without fault, despite people's economic and mental, emotional, or their physical well-being. And I've not given enough consideration to this lyric that describes how people are crushed. Maybe this is the deformity, the crushed by the weight of life, damaging and transforming them over time. I don't have an answer to that either. Is it worse to be broken down and shattered by the pain of existence, or to be transformed into someone you no longer recognize. I don't know, but I see a little bit of the latter in my own, you know, in my own years. In being 37, I think my experiences, at least in my comparing my 20s and 30s, parallel yours, in which people have kind of made comments like, "Oh, you kind of peaked in your 20s."
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, you gave up that to do this." So I definitely feel that, feeling like a slave to my own habits, and stuck in the same holding pattern of life, and not always knowing if or when I'll be able to shake things that I don't want to weigh me down anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, I mean, then we have this next line. I try to keep my composure amidst the insanity, resigned to the truth that I will not live to see the dawn of a better day that might wash away the sadness of this age. And I don't know how you feel, but I think this might arguably be the best single lyric on the entire album. It's ridiculously, unbelievably good.
Yeah.
It's basically the thesis statement of all of Propaganda to me.
Yeah.
When you think of the agelessness of their songs and the fact that their songs only become more relevant as the years pass, Chris ages far into the second half of his life, knowing that he will die and like the absurdities will only compound. Like, even though we had a real chance to reshape the world during the pandemic and haven't really seemed to do so, it seems that staying alive means to accept the totally bonkers world and our own insignificance and lack of power to make real substantive changes. So not only is the world insane, but we are also extremely insignificant. Like, that's what it's asking me to comprehend. Like,
Yeah.
the world is so ridiculous and you want to feel like you have agency, but you have no power. And I mean, that's a really like cynical view of looking at things. And obviously I do think that everybody can make changes that are like for the better, that can collectively do things, but there are forces at work so far up in the stratospheric economic like classes of our society that are so far beyond what I will ever access within my single little lifetime. And so that's the insanity. And knowing that they are, careening us off of a cliff as a civilization, and knowing that you will die and that careening will not cease, even though it could. So it makes life feel like a horrible amusement park ride that you can't get off of, as opposed to a thriving existence. And, I think about the fact that, those suicide rates in the US were climbing until 2018 and 2019 and lowered a tiny bit in 2020, while hundreds of thousands of people died of COVID. I have to tell you that I feel this line very deeply, keeping the composure amidst the insanity, and it just goes to like speak to that ignorance is bliss cliche that people repeat. Like, the more you learn, like the harder it is to be a happy person, it feels like.
Greg, I think this is the Propaganda lyric that has evaded me the most. And I have no idea how I overlooked it for so long. And maybe I still had hope that things could be better. But I remember that you've shared this a number of times, either via text or on social media in the last year and a half, and seeing the words by themselves without the music, just the despair articulated so clearly and sorrowfully, it hits hard with, I mean, there's so much to think about. The structural inequalities and failings writ large as a result of COVID, the unrest of 2020 and the absolute power of municipal police shock troops, the Capitol insurrection, voter fraud, and the whole-scale assault on democracy, the reignited culture war in the form of like the 1619 or the responses to the 1619 project and critical race theory in the classroom, climate change in its countless forms, and impending conflict over limited resources and migration, skyrocketing healthcare costs amidst growing income disparities, technologies that aid and abet misinformation, anti-vaxxers. I just saw a video of an anti-vaxxer mace a cancer patient outside of a hospital. And I don't know how people have much hope. And for me, what is really a struggle, I think this is the biggest struggle for me in this whole song, or my thoughts of the song, is the debates and the conversations about all of these issues that threaten us become less and less informed. And that's hard. That's a hard part for me, that not only are we trying to figure these things out, but we're doing so with worse information. And plus just the selfish side of it, me having a child in 2020, I no longer just think about these things in terms of how they impact me or my neighbor or the future, but now the future has a name. And I don't know how anyone doesn't feel like the full force of gravity, knowing that, like knowing what is happening out there, like outside our doors. The litany of looming catastrophes makes me feel both physically and emotionally heavy, like I'm laboring under some invisible burden. And like, try as I might strive for some buoyancy, some lift, some time with my head above the clouds, I just feel beaten down by the news, by headlines, by racist bumper stickers and social media whataboutisms and bad faith defenses and misinformed arguments and outright apologism that defends the systems of belief and those who actually work to make our world less free, less just, and less equitable, and less livable. And so I mentioned that I've been taking a class the last 3 weeks. I've been enrolled in a teacher seminar from the American Civil War Museum on Slavery and Emancipation. That's the class I'm taking. And during the class, my cohort had the opportunity to do a video chat with a documentary film crew that made a film called How the Monuments Came Down. You can watch it free on PBS. It's streaming online. And the film explores the history of Richmond, Virginia, through the lens of the city's Confederate monuments, including their removal. It's really well researched. It's well argued and defended. And it's claimed that the monuments are not, in fact, history of the periods that they purport to reflect, and that their intentions of the people who erected them was voter suppression, reinforcing white supremacy, dismantling Reconstruction, and obfuscating history by injecting interpretations with essentially just lost cause rhetoric. This Civil War wasn't about slavery. They were just, they were Christian, that they were overwhelmed and they were never going to win, but it was this noble cause.
Yeah.
So I asked the filmmakers, like, how do you maintain just your own personal sanity, researching and crafting this powerful, evidence-based and community-driven documentary amid all of the uninformed and bad faith arguments about monument removal and, you know, how it's quote unquote erasing history? And there are a couple of responses. And one person said that he tried to understand what others believe and why, and to use that to shape what he knows and how he tries to work essentially as an educator to inform others. And another person was just like, yeah, I don't have the time to argue with that sort of nonsense. He said he had real work to do and won't give, if it's either the Flagger movement or neo-Confederates, whoever, it won't give them the time of day. And I bring this up, this is very specific, but I bring this up because I just so often get beaten down, I think, by the human aspect of all of these issues that I've mentioned, that we are our own greatest obstacle in saving ourselves. So my mental stamina and my hope for anything better are zapped by things like they're teaching kids to hate America, or they want to erase the history they don't like, or not all scientists agree about climate change. Why do we have a blizzard if there's global warming?
Yeah.
Or healthcare is a privilege, not a right. If you don't like it, you can get out. Like all of those things. I see those things and I can't just like look past it and go, I wonder what led you toward this path. I just feel rage and I feel anger that I as little as I know, I still try to put in the work and I try to inform myself and come to a better, more researched and more informed understanding of things, and others can just grasp onto the bumper sticker and that's it. And so it's not so much even like the issues themselves that make me feel defeated. It's our inability to meaningfully discuss things. And no matter how much I might read and how many videos I might watch, at the same time, like all the time I spend to be a little bit more familiar
Yeah.
with, I think, the complicated underpinnings of political and economic and social issues, I will always be outmatched by some slogan or witty false equivalence. And
Yep.
Greg, I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm starting to be a little bit more self-aware that this is something that I really struggle with. And I personalize it and I internalize it, and it ruins my mood. I can literally be on a walk with my son and I'll see a bumper sticker or I'll see a sign in a front yard and it will literally ruin my mood because of what it makes me think. And it's not thinking like, oh, I'm right. And oh God, how could you be so wrong? It's not that. Because I don't really know. So I try to listen to experts and I try to carve out a basic understanding that is just a little bit more nuanced and fact-based than a meme. But that's where I feel like the weight has kind of suffocated me in the last year and a half.
Yeah. Well, and then like the more you learn, like you have these like things that you learn that push you, and then that's what leads to this. I keep the voices calling me at bay, right? So you learn more to try to become a more informed human being on this planet. But then when you do learn, you realize just how much we careen as a species. And then you're like, okay, now I know all these things. These things are all terrible. The ways that human beings screw each other over is profound and limitless. And so then it starts to, you get that spiral that starts, right?
Yeah.
And so I try to keep the voices calling me at bay, desperately cling to any futile act of human decency. So it's just such a progression, man. This is like waking up in the morning being like, oh gosh, I'm awake again. And then going and reading the news over coffee. And it's like, well, this sucks. This also sucks. Oh my God, this is the worst one yet. Oh my God. And the despair spiral just overtakes people who want to stay informed and care about the world. But it's so hard to pay attention because it seems that so much of the news is bad. So in that regard, like I understand the inclination of people like Steven Pinker who want to emphasize that we're living at the quote unquote the best point in all of human history. But like I also am like, but it's so tremendously bad still. So if like this is the best, I'm like, oh boy. Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think about that line?
Yeah, I think it's one of the darkest lyrics in the entire album. And the honesty is pretty painful to hear. The keeping the voices at bay. I think it's the voices of self-doubt, of surrender, anger and failure, and idleness. Like it's almost like the sirens guiding Chris toward self-destruction. He hears them, he acknowledges them, and in response, he's searching for something positive, maybe to just jam his ears with. And the next part, sitting on my hands, hoping anyone else other than me will do what should be done. It's not. It's hard not to succumb as they call my name. And some of the themes built into Last Will and Testament, Unscripted Moment, and Adventures in Psychosis come to mind here, Greg. I think especially grappling with the external and the internal voices saying, well, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And what are you really going to change? And it was like this before you, it will be like this after you. And that feeling of helplessness is really hard to shake. But I also see it not just as like a byproduct of living in an illiberal, inequitable, and oppressive society, but that feeling of helplessness is also, at least in part, necessary to maintain inequality and oligarchy. So, somewhat related, when my students ask about gerrymandering and voter suppression laws, the electoral college, dark money, I may have mentioned this before. They ask, well, why do we vote if our votes don't matter? And I always respond with, like, I get that. I totally empathize with that framing. But even like with all the obstacles to democracy, not voting is not a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Like if the system is flawed, yes, but not voting is not a way that's going to fix this. So even with a card stacked against progress to making, the world, our lives better for more people, of course, doing nothing is not a solution. I just don't know what the something always is, or I just don't always have the muster, the spirit to do something. And I don't really hear these words just as song lyrics, but rather a person really trying to make sense of their own pain and suffering and the pain and suffering of others. And Greg, I mean, I've only recently started to have these sort of conversations with people, listening to friends and family who admit their own dark nights of the soul.
Yeah.
So I also realized that these first dialogues were opened up probably because of the familiarity with such conversations in music. And, I wish I would have been a little bit more open and honest and vulnerable and introspective when I first heard the song to make sense of the baggage I carry. But I've definitely, I've been doing a lot of unpacking with that in the last few years.
Yeah, and what's interesting too, if you look at the demo version, the line desperately clinging to any futile act of human decency is not on the demo version. So the musical version on the demo of that line lingers a bit longer, but man, what a great addition. Desperately clinging to any futile act of human decency. It's like people going on HuffPost and going to the good news section,
right,
and having that be the only news section that you read every day. Like, I am just going to go read the good news section on HuffPost today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it shows here too. Like when people say, "Why are you so negative?" Like it's not someone wanting to be negative or pessimistic or hopeless. They want those positive things and they look for it where they can, but it's not always easy to find.
Yeah. So, these next lines we got here, the voices love to remind me of my futility, sitting on my hands, hoping anyone else will do what should be done. It's hard not to succumb as they call my name. So the knowing of our own insignificance in this galaxy it's not exactly an American trait. You know what I mean? We tend to think we're fairly important.
Right.
So I may be wrong, but I feel as if we tend to grow up being told of our specialness, our uniqueness. And yes, being alive on Earth is an extremely privileged chance occurrence that is special. But the fact of the matter is that people die on Earth all the time and the Earth keeps going and things keep happening. And the fact that countless deaths on Earth don't really impact my life at all, and the fact that really the deaths of a microscopic fragment of all people on Earth will impact me in any way, just goes to demonstrate that if I were to die, only the tiniest percentages of people on Earth would care in any way, shape, or form if I died, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we internalize that truth and a depression strikes and the voice inside our head reminds us of the difficulties of being human, and when we grapple with the immensity of the struggles facing all of people in human civilization, holy smokes, it's totally overwhelming.
But you got to keep on trucking anyways.
Well, that's the last line, keep on trucking. And, that reminds me of each morning when my eyes open, sometimes against my will. I'm like, I wish I could sleep longer. Like I've been pulling a lot of 6-hour nights of sleep lately. And it's like, oh, that's exhausting. And I remember that I'm still human on this planet and that another 16 hours of wakefulness is in front of me. and that there is someone who relies on me to make it through those 16 hours. This is such a powerful closing line because it's a commitment to living, at least for now, while being aware of the internal demon that drags us down and dealing with that internal demon that asks us to end it all. It's still a commitment to living with that demon inside of us, but being like, that demon is there it is, but I commit to life. And, Chris became a dad between supporting cast and failed states. I think if my timeline of him becoming a parent is accurate, I'd imagine he'd quadruple down on his keep on trucking line now, considering since he wrote the song, he became partnered and has 2 young children. So there are 3 other people who very, very, very much care that he keeps on trucking. And I know for a fact that being a parent has pulled me back from some serious brinks in the past. So this line, keep on trucking anyway, it's funny. It's humorous. And it's like, here we go again, everybody. Let's get on a ride.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting way to end the song. I think earlier, Chris is brutally honest about his own mental health struggles in really poignant and well-crafted lyrics. But the track is punctuated with this like canned hippie phrase. I think it's been overused to like banality. And for a long time, I wasn't really quite sure how to read it. And perhaps even I felt a little frustrated that the motivation at the end of the song wasn't as poetic and as articulate as the rest of the lyrics. But I don't hear the phrase being used sarcastically or lazily now. More, I hear it as Chris kind of just doesn't know what to say to someone who's reached the end of the rope. And even in Keep on Truckin', there's like this unspoken sadness in saying it that says, I'm here with you, trying to make sense as well, trying to find motivation to keep pushing forward day after day. And I've grown to like closing, this closing line, I think much more in the last few years, even if at first it kind of threw me off a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I found a couple of YouTube comments about this, and one says, thank you for writing this. I only wish I could begin to explain how important these words are to me or how important they should be to everyone else. And another one I found is, this song is about resisting the desire to end your life despite the sadness and ugliness of the world. And, those were pretty spot on for me. Did you find any?
Yeah, one is on the music. It says 2:08, the timestamp, Hannah and the Beaver in perfect sync. So good. I think that's actually part of the music referenced, Greg. And another says, haven't heard a single complaint about this album. I'm surprised. I guess I'll go pick it up. So maybe like 11 years after the comment, I should respond and see if they bought the record.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, as far as like some lesson takeaways, I mean, the will to go on in this life, man, no matter who you are, you're going to get punched in the face. And a lot of people get punched in the face a heck of a lot more than me, for which I didn't deserve that lack of face punching. I was just born who I was born, and my face has been punched less than others. Which just goes to show you just how crappy the world is in a lot of ways. But I never understood how people could be sad, like depressions. I never got it. I never got depression my whole life, but I get it now. I go through waves of like horribleness. And I think I'm about the age now that Chris was when he wrote these words. It's possible that without my relationships situation, with multiple relationships in my life, my being a parent, my slingshotting and topsy-turvy daily reality I'm currently experiencing, the pandemic, and long periods of isolated loneliness and crushing personal doubts and self-insecurities, I never would have come to really grapple with these words, because until you know how that darkness internally feels, you can't be like, I feel like I knew his pain. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't say, I know how that feels.
Right.
And so I have a very, very recent appreciation for that particular line in this particular song, because I feel like I'm experiencing actual struggles for the first time. And even though things are hard for me right now, I have a roof, I have an amazing kid, I have a supportive family, I have resources, I have full-time employment that keeps me safe from the pandemic. So I keep on trucking, But the song is an empathy exercise to see people who have what they see as unfixable pain. And I do meditation exercises where I stare my darkness in the face and I say, I won't let you win. I will be me. I will survive. I will go on. And to me, that is what this song is saying. I will go on no matter what. And I wonder how many people who have succumbed to their own darkness at one time also said, I will go on no matter what. Did Anthony Bourdain say, I will go on no matter what? And then one day he still couldn't, even though he maybe had said that, something like that, you know? And I just have to remember the darkness that awaits around corners and in hidden spaces, and it overtakes you unexpectedly. And I must, use the resources at my disposal to fortify myself against that emergence.
Yeah, Greg, I don't have much to add, honestly, except that if the listeners here are having trouble reconciling the things that you've been brought up to believe in the reality of the world, you're not alone. And if you feel exasperated all the time by the chasm that divides, say, how politicians talk about life and what life is actually like to live, I'm here with you too. I don't have much advice. I think just like the song doesn't pretend to offer, rather it says, you're not alone. And although that doesn't fix anything or even offer perhaps much comfort, we're down here together.
Mm-hmm. Well, Keith, do you believe in ranking songs anymore? How do you feel about this song?
I didn't write one down, but I can throw out a rating.
Make it up.
All right. I can't think of a single critique of this song, right? I don't have any criticisms that really stand out in terms of the song itself, or compared to the rest of this album, or compared to the rest of this discography. I'm going to give it a 4. I think it's an incredible song. Even though I think it's essentially flawless, it's still one that has flown under my radar for a little bit too long. So maybe over time it'll creep up to a 4.5 or higher. But it's really an incredibly criminally overlooked track.
I agree. I don't even know how to rank songs on supporting cast anymore. I was prepared for this to be maybe my lowest ranked Chris song on this record, but I definitely like this one more than Last Will and Testament, because I think that the vocal melody is so much more developed and stronger. So I think I'm going to give this one a 3.5 as an underdog on the record. And just because there are so many incredible moments on the rest of this album, I mean, it's a freaking perfect record. So I'm giving it a 3.5. But like, as always, we're literally making up our rankings on the spot, and we are very dumb. So please don't take our rankings seriously ever. So thank you so much, everybody out there listening. We know we had a bit of a break this summer, kind of like took a little breather to do some resets. So we both needed it a whole heck of a lot. But we are so stoked that you love this show. We just think that you're all amazing, and we're grateful to all of you. And if you want to find us on Instagram or Twitter, you can find us at PropagandyPod. You can shoot us an email at propagandapod@gmail.com. Thank you so much to Dylan James from Clipwing. Thank you so much to Jenn Fiorentino for your participations in this episode. And as always, we will see you next time.
The voices love to remind me of my futility sitting on my hands, hoping anyone else than me will do what should be done. It's hard not to succumb as they